Welcome back. You're watching Frontrow. Of course, we continue the conversation on the high cost of living. Before we went for that break, Ramogi, you were explaining the tax policy, and you mentioned a number of challenges. The fact that we're investing, or we're taking our money outside the country, and of course, the issue of corruption. Now, before we even get to those two, is it time we re-strategize? If so, what's the strategy that we can employ? Today is that day.
That's an interesting one. Yes, there are strategies we can employ.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be a lot of focus on local industries. I am not a supporter of giving our business to the Chinese. I'm not a supporter of giving our business to the Japanese. I mean, I love the fact that they are willing to help us in terms of developing our projects, developing our rail system, and etc. But you cannot tell me that 100% of or near 100% of the money they give us ends up in China and is not here, and we are being taxed for it. Yeah. That just doesn't make sense. And then they don't develop also local talent, so that 10 years from now you still are dependent on them. 20 years from now you still are dependent on them. That skill development gap is just a big problem that we need to address. The other thing also that I think we need to address is the issue of corruption. The next government must look at corruption squarely in the eye and deal with it sincerely. Because if we fail to, then we are going to have a failed country. And a failed country in terms of economics is going to lead to a failed country in terms of the political arena. Okay. So we need to have a keen look at the corruption issue. But generally speaking, I think we need to review our taxation framework. I saw somewhere that there has been a lot of push from the Bretton Woods institutions that we are undertaxing our economy, so that we need to increase our tax, what they call expansionary policies, which are not working locally, so that we have very high cost of living and it's not yielding results in terms of growth. I think we need to review that, because every country is different and has very different. We need something localized, domesticated, a policy that touches on our local realities. The minister or the CS for finance has finally agreed to come up with a proper tax policy framework. And I think it's a good document that really needs a lot of public participation and infusement from the likes of us. And hopefully it will come up strong, and it will help us to come up with a better fiscal framework.
Okay. Victor, coming to you, I've just gotten a question here, and they're asking, what is the basic and simplest mode to spur our economy back to track?
I think we already have a working formula. We already have SMEs who are literally the backbone of this economy. The challenge we have is, number one, is you don't collect data on SMEs. So the last time we collected data on SMEs was 2016 by Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. The importance of data is you can be able to make or tweak decisions or interventions toward a sector based on the data that you receive. So we know, and we can see a lot of government interventions coming towards SME, the stimulus economic program, the economic recovery strategy, post-COVID-19 economic recovery strategy, all targeting SME but missing. So if you see a VAT, pay as you earn, corporate tax break, and you're thinking of SMEs, majority are informal, so 79% are informal. So it means that that intervention misses. So number one is we need to be able to collect data on SMEs, do a needs assessment of where they are, what challenges they are facing now. Then that informs whatever intervention that we are going to put in. So it doesn't make sense for you to put, let's say, for example, 10 billion. For what? You can't. You have to have an SI unit where you can measure and say, this is where they are, these are the small, these are the medium, these are the sectors, these are the challenges they face, and this is what they need in terms of a solution. If we're able to solve that, then it means, of course, SMEs are able to grow, and if they're able to grow, then it means they're able to contribute, of course, towards socio-economic development in the country.
All right. From the challenges, of course, that you are an SME expert, and you know the challenges that SMEs face. Equally, just a few minutes ago, we just saw the protesters, and one of the placards was saying, Punda Mechoka, which is them showing where they are at as citizens of Kenya. But then, with your statistics, 33% of our money goes to corruption. Do you think, knowing all this, knowing the challenges that we face, it will actually change how the electorate thinks during these August elections?
Based on precedents, and the way we vote or the way the Kenyan political ecosystem votes, it's based on regional bastions or tribe. So we did a survey around, I think, January, just asking SMEs what are the things that they need to be seen in political manifestos in terms of addressing the economy. None of the major political formations have been able to comprehensively give a solution towards developing the economy. We hear, bottom-up formula. The other team has a different formula. But if you were to just unpack that, we can't see really very practical ways in which they can be able to support the economy. It's just rhetoric, populist rhetorics here and there, but we haven't seen very clear-cut solution that can be able to address SMEs. In terms of will that affect how we vote, I think based on precedents, I don't think that would happen. Like I said, our voting bastions is not from a business angle where business community would come and say, okay, now if you don't address 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things, we are not going to vote for you. The politicians know that we vote through regional as well as tribal formations.
Okay, all right, Ramogi. Of course, for picking up from what he mentioned, it is that season where you're going to be hearing promises left, right, center. When he talks about a clear-cut solution, what does it look like?
No, first of all, let me lament like he has first. I can go to the solution.
Okay.
I think the first lamentation for me, yes, is that the responsibility to manage the debt, to manage expenditure, to manage the economy rests with Parliament. I know in terms of policy, the minister has the final say, but in terms of law and even budgeting, really the buck stops with Parliament. And so I'd expect that while Kenyans are angry, they would direct that anger towards their parliamentarians and say, look, we need more responsible people in the House. I hope that this will affect how they vote. I hope it will affect how they make decisions in terms of the governors they produce, the MPs they produce, and the MCAs they produce. But I also agree with him that the tribe will play a big part. But on the other hand, also, I have noticed that even within the tribe, there will be a sifting. Because, yes, you're my tribesmate, but are you really able to deliver on what I want? And I think that is still happening, so that you're seeing, yes, these are tribes people, but in terms of some of these positions, like MCA, MP, women rep, etc., I think there is a lot of that happening, that people want value. Yes, I don't trust, I trust you more, but I want value. What are you offering? And I think that's happening. In terms of the solution moving forward, where we need to go, I think we need responsible leadership. There's a lot that can be solved with the right leadership. And so, yes, I'd encourage Kenyans to vote wisely. But at the same time, I think we also need to focus on some areas that I believe will give us better results, like agriculture, as we had mentioned.
Yeah.
What Raila said, I know I'm not supposed to address that, but I think there's something that caught my attention. The rural transformation, urban regeneration approach to his economic model means that in the rural area we can focus on agriculture and tourism. And then in the urban sectors we can focus on changing the scene in the urban sector in terms of proper housing, but also at the same time investing significantly in manufacturing. So that now you have a two-pronged approach towards development. It makes more sense. I know they are yet to come up with manifestos, both him and the other team, but it makes more sense in terms of proper economic approach.
Okay. Victor, you were scribbling something.
Yeah,
yes.
I just wanted, in terms of quick wins, number one is we already know that we import a lot of stuff. We import furniture, we import nails, we import toothpicks, etc. That already gives us a ready market for our entrepreneurs. The question is, why are we importing, maybe, for example, furniture? can, of course...
Why are we importing toothpicks?
Why are we importing toothpicks?
Yeah.
This data is already there through KenTrade, KProba, KNBS, etc. Can we just use that information, give it to SMEs within the different, cluster they have, whether if it's a question of standardization, how can we be able to help them just be able to capture that demand that is already there? I think that's number one. Number two is in terms of export, and this has been said time immemorial, we continue to export our products raw, meaning that we don't get the full value of whatever product that we're exporting. For instance, we export raw coconut, yet we import, we export around 500 million worth of coconuts to, to different countries. We import over 800 million worth of different coconut products, whether it's coconut oil, etc. So does it make sense for us to be able to export
It doesn't actually, because coconut oil is actually can be
so
produced.
why can't and we know that we can be able to get that technology for us to be able to do a value addition. We already know that value addition is the way to go, but we don't do it. I think the challenge that I see, especially in terms from a policy perspective, is almost investing in utopia, where we say we want to spur manufacturing, but we go ahead and invest in a physical infrastructure in, say, for example, Mombasa. Yet we can see guys in Kariakor struggling. We can see guys in Uhuru Market, Jericho Market, all of them struggling. Yet they're actually doing manufacturing.
Okay.
Why can't we support them where they are? When we were in high school, our maths teacher usually used to tell us, start from the known to the unknown.
Yeah.
So what we know is that we already have local manufacturing, cottage manufacturing. It's working. It's not where we want, but can we be able to support them slowly as we push them to where we want them to be in terms of being located in a special economic zone?
All right.
So I think the focus should be on now where they are. Just support them for them to be able to grow. Then, of course, automatically they can, based on good support, they can be able to grow.
All right, but when you look at sectors such as the agriculture sector, the cartels that are there are equally a problem.
Yes, cartels are everywhere. In fact, some of us believe even in heaven.
No.
Some holy. Listen, first of all, let me respond to the issue of Dongo Kundu.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of studies post the implementation of the first movement of goods through the SGR, and the economy of Mombasa was significantly affected. The general feeling of the people of Mombasa is that Dongo Kundu needs to be expedited. Our problem is not that they are investing money there. The problem of people of Mombasa is that they are investing paltry amounts for a very long time when people are actually struggling. Because you see, Dongo Kundu would ensure that the people who lost jobs, courtesy of business moving to Nairobi, can now get their jobs back.
Yeah.
It means that the economy can be revitalized back. What we are wondering is every year you see 1 billion, 2 billion, 1 billion going to Dongo Kundu. When you go to Dongo Kundu, all you're seeing is a rod. There's nothing happening.
To be fair, there has been some progress that has been made. Slow, but there has been.
Yes, like I said, our problem is the amount of slow work that's going on.
Yeah.
In terms of whether or not there are cartels in agriculture, let me say that I think generally I love the middleman in the agricultural sector. And the middleman is useful because, one, government has failed to help in terms of distribution networks to support the farmer to reach you and I in Nairobi. So the middleman is just coming in to solve a problem. Well, at a kill, yes, but they are solving a problem. Absent of the middleman, we probably would not be able to get the maize roasted somewhere on the streets of Nairobi.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we have people who do not want local production because they want to import overnight and make a kill, 1 billion or 2 billion shillings worth of importation, whether it's sugar, whether it's maize, whether it's something else. And so we have an elite class that derives a lot of pleasure in making a lot of money in a short time out of a crisis. So the crisis is not a problem for them. The crisis is an opportunity for them. And I think that needs to change. So that then, if you want to call those ones cartels, go ahead and call them cartels. And I think that needs to be addressed sincerely so that we can have better and stronger local production.
All right. As you respond to that, I'll give you each 1 minute. And 1 minute, I mean 1 minute. Even as we wind up and you add your point, Kenyans, you know, are there. They're wondering, so what next? They can't afford basic food prices. And rumor has it, it might get worse, not to speculate. So then what's the way forward? I just wanted to maybe just
put a point around taxation within the county. So it's easier to talk about taxation at a national level. Yeah. But if you look at a majority of small businesses, they operate within the counties. So one of the biggest challenges, especially in agriculture, is the issue around cess. So it's of course you have your cartels, but there is a systemic challenge that farmers face. For instance, I'm in Nyandarua. I want to transport my viazi to Nairobi. You can imagine they pay cess at every border where they pass through. Yeah. So as much as we talk about national level cartels, national taxation, I think those very basic taxations that happen within the counties should be addressed in a systematic way. So that even as we talk about having a national tax policy, the counties need to harmonize their taxation to ensure that the farmer or even the local manufacturer is, the cost of business for them is a bit low. Okay. Your final thoughts on what? Yeah, so for me, I think my rallying call, of course, is that we know SMEs are the backbone of the economy. We need to collect data on SMEs. We need to do interventions based on the reality of SMEs. Number two is we know technology and innovation is the next frontier. We've seen a lot of African countries put policies and support mechanisms to support local innovators. We've seen Nigeria, we've seen Senegal, South Africa is doing the same. Startups and innovation is the next frontier in terms of job creation as well as contributions towards socio-economic development. All right. That's an area that we must invest in. Okay, Ramogi, final thoughts.
Yes, the high cost of food and high cost of living is going to be with us here for a while. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to help Kenyans. Brace ourselves, yeah? Yes. Okay. But I think also we have a lot of work to do in terms of engaging with the government of the day. And we need some smart activism. We need some engagement with the government authorities that goes beyond just making noise into giving proposals. I also think we need to be engaged in public participation forums. We also need to engage really. But at the end of the day, your voting matters. Okay. Kenyans need to come out and vote in the kind of leaders that reflect the kind of country, the kind of a country they want. And it's not going to come from heaven. Okay. It comes from our voting. I think that's a really good place to end this conversation. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Of course, we had Odhiambo Ramogi, who is an economist and equally the CEO of Elim Capital. And next to me, we had Victor Otieno, an SME expert and MD of Vifa Consult. And of course, we did ask you a question earlier just to sample a few of your responses. We asked who or what is to blame for the current situation. Chepkwony Nicholas says mismanagement of the public funds by both people set to oversee those funds and also the public in general. I saw a funny one here. Trent says, just hoping that this is not an educated person. And a majority of your responses, you were saying that handshake, Uhuru and his project, the government, those are some of the responses that we are getting. Thank you very much for being part of the broadcast. I'm Ashley Mazuri. Till next time.